Have you ever been on a farm? If you have, you know how much work it takes to grow and raise the food on your plate. If you haven't, you likely have an idea of the labor involved. Farms are just the first stop in our food system. There's processing, packaging, distribution, retail, and ultimately, your table. We need workers across the food system to make it run well. But there's a serious labor shortage across the country, and our food system has one of the highest job vacancy rates of any industry. Let's learn more about it as we delve into how the labor shortage is affecting our food system, its impact on putting food on your table, and potential solutions.
I always think about the vice. You can only put so much pressure, right? Farmers feel that pressure.
Catherine Doan is a turkey farmer and works for an HR services company to the agri-food industry. She's seen the labor force shrinking for years, and its effects on the agri-food industry can't be ignored. About 1 in 9, or 2.3 million people work in the agri-food industry in Canada. It used to be 1 in 7. The industry generates $145 billion of Canada's gross domestic product, and its growth is at risk. A big reason for the labor shortage is baby boomers are retiring, and the pandemic caused early retirement and career changes. In the agri-food industry, add to that a reputation for long hours, hard work, traditionally low wages, and a shift to urban from rural centers.
How bad is the labor shortage on your farm? How is it impacting you?
There's been a good thing about mental health, right? Good thing about mental health is it's being talked about. I always think about the vice. You can only put so much pressure, right?
Yes.
Farmers feel that pressure, and time, you can't invent more of it. On our farm, there is a cycle. So every 14 to 17 weeks, we produce what is called a TOM that goes to products like a turkey breast, kielbasa, turkey burgers, things like that, right? So I don't get to just say, hey, we can't feed these birds. We're not going to bed up these birds with straw. I can't say those things just because I don't have enough help, right? It has to be done. So I think that's probably the most pressure you feel is if you can't find the people to do these jobs, then what? Who does the buck stop at, right? I think that's what's amazing about farmers is they have a tremendous sense of responsibility to provide food for the public, for people in our country and for people around the world globally. And if you can't think of how to get more people, if maybe you're not connected, maybe you've bought a farm in the middle of Drayton and you don't know anybody, then how do you find people? There's ways to do that, but it takes time, right? So here on our farm, I think it's that cycle of trying to grow turkeys in a healthy, profitable way, because as a farmer, we have to be able to make money to pay the bills. But the factor is it's getting smaller and smaller, the margin, but you want to pay people fairly so that you can actually have them here and available.
What does the labor force picture look like across the food industry?
The labor force industry across Canada is extremely tight right now. We saw it previous to the pandemic, and we are feeling it more so across the whole full value chain. Whether that is on farm, whether that's agribusiness, whether it's food processing, we need people in order to grow and prepare the food that you eat daily.
A labor shortage in our food system doesn't only mean fewer hands in the fields, it resonates throughout the entire supply chain.
The labor shortage in the agri-food business is quite high. Why do you think it is higher than many other industries in Canada?
I think partially it goes back to the fact that agriculture is so seasonal. I think also we're seeing a trend of people wanting to work from home, wanting flexibility, wanting to have a different look on life, right? What was versus what is. I think agriculture feels it more so because we need to be out face to face with a lot of our jobs. we are feeling a pinch in agriculture and food when it comes to employment and people in the jobs is because it's a pipeline. It doesn't just start tomorrow that somebody is qualified to come in and be my feed specialist. It takes years to be able to train, understand, have an education to be then able to come and help me as a farmer on my farm with that job. I think because we need to increase the number of people that are aware of the opportunities to begin with, but that just doesn't happen overnight. I also think that we are feeling a pinch in agriculture and food specifically because people don't wake up and think, oh, I want to work in agriculture and food. They think, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a nurse. They don't always connect with the opportunities that we have available, let alone understand how their food is produced on the farm.
So how is the labor shortage affecting the supply chain from farm to table?
The labor shortage, or I always say the people shortage, I try to avoid the word labor because it's people doing jobs. And across the full value chain, we're seeing it on farm that we can't find enough people to help with our turkey operation. Our neighboring dairy farmer has cows to milk, eggs to pick. They just can't seem to find enough people that are reliable and willing to learn and show up. So that is at the primary agriculture side of things. But then when those, maybe it's tomatoes that are being produced, the truck drivers that take the tomatoes to the processing plant, that is another factor that, French's, they do a great job with having Canadian products, Canadian tomatoes. They need truck drivers, they need logistics individuals, they need people in their plants to be able to take those tomatoes and turn them into ketchup. So it's being affected in the full value chain in agriculture and food on both ends all the way through. Going back to what I said before, that you have to ignite the interest, engage with people to understand what that job even is. I always say we're at a 1.0 stage here of igniting interest in agriculture and food careers.
Jennifer Wright works for an organization focused on addressing human resource issues that face agricultural businesses across Canada.
What are the consequences of the labor shortage in the agri-food industry in terms of business, the economy, and innovation?
The agriculture industry has been facing a labor shortage for quite some time. We're seeing that labor shortage grow into a labor crisis really at this point. Certainly across Canada, every industry is facing a labor shortage with the aging workforce. But for Canadian agriculture, our research is showing, even pre-pandemic, that we were missing out on $2.9 billion worth of revenue and production in the industry because of the labor shortage. We're in the midst of updating that data now. We do anticipate that economic impact is going to grow. We're also starting to see farmers leave the industry because of the lack of support in labor in the workforce, and that can have an impact on food supply for Canadians, domestically grown food supply for Canadians. The agriculture industry is a huge economic contributor to Canadian GDP, and so we want that industry working at its top potential.
How is the labor shortage impacting food security in Canada? Is it?
I'm not sure that it's impacting food security right at the moment. However, when we're seeing the reduction in the number of people going into the industry, we're seeing a prolonged labor crisis with the labor shortages. We're seeing farmers exit the industry and not necessarily sell their land for continued production, but maybe sell their land to leave agriculture production. If we don't look at the labor shortage now, it will have, in the future, will have an impact on Canadian food security.
So what are the challenges of attracting a skilled labor force to the agri-food industry?
I think one of the biggest challenges is really understanding and having awareness of how, first off, how amazing the industry is and how there's so many different career opportunities within agriculture. Our organization just completed some perceptions research for those people not working in agriculture. And in that perceptions research, it said that over half, I think it was 54 respondents, only identified farmers as an occupation within the industry. Farmers are the most important occupation in agriculture, but they need other people working around them to support food production. And we need to raise awareness about what those occupations are, how technology, automation, digitalization is having an impact on modern agriculture, and really, ensuring that all Canadians understand what goes into food production in this country in 2023.
For a large segment of Canadians, working in the agri-food sector has a negative connotation. People think of hard work, low pay. Why does working in the agri-food sector have that reputation for such a segment of society?
I think that there, a disconnect between where food comes from. And the more that, we see urbanization across Canada, that disconnect between where your food comes from and how it's produced and what the work is about, and the opportunities, to work in food production have really not been top of mind, I would say, for a lot of Canadians that do live in urban centers. And it's our organization's responsibility, but also industry's responsibility to help bridge that divide and to be able to more clearly raise awareness and articulate what it really means to work in agriculture. Certainly, some of the work is labor intensive. Growing food and taking care of animals doesn't always happen between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and that's just a reality of it. But there's also a lot of other opportunities within the industry outside of that work. And then there's also lots of opportunities to work in that type of environment that's very different than the office 9 to 5, but it's extremely rewarding and well paid as well.
There are many lingering misconceptions about working in today's modern agricultural industry.
So how do you change misconceptions about working in the agri-food industry?
Building awareness about what it's like to work in modern agriculture in Canada is really important. Certainly our research has shown that people not working in agriculture still see people that work in agriculture as overalls and a pitchfork kind of thing. And really in modern agriculture today, there is so much more happening around using drones for crop protection, robotics in dairy barns, for example, and tractors that, you're in a tractor, it looks like a video game with all your screens. So modern agriculture is, highly technical. Digitalization, automation is playing a big role. And as an industry, we need to do more to make sure that Canadians understand that.
Today's agri-food industry is as much about technology and boardrooms as it is about barns and harvests.
How are technology and innovation helping to make working in the food industry less physically labor intensive?
I think there's lots of amazing things that are happening. I'll use the example of GPS or drones when it comes to identifying weeds, identifying what crops need in order for them to grow. I think about it from our turkey operation, so our feeding system, making sure that there is the right temperature in the barn, the right airflow, the right amount of feed. Some of that stuff is automated, so that definitely cuts down on the having to be there every second of the day. Instead, those tools and that technology then offsets. But I think the fact is that we often talk about how automation can replace people, and I think that's definitely a possibility if you have the money to do that. But lots of operations don't have the money to invest in that, so they end up needing to use people versus automation. Or if they can put in automation, that takes a whole other level of skill, training, development, And again, it takes time and energy. So if you are new into maybe producing cheese, think about the process of making cheese, let alone all the steps that it takes to do that. So sure, I can probably get something that mixes the milk and presses the milk, but it still takes the people in order to operate that. And I think sometimes I feel that we throw out automation as the solution, but we forget that we still need the people in order to operate that.
What jobs are out there for skilled workers?
At agcareers.com, we have over 386 career profiles that we have written out to help people connect with the career opportunities available for people in our industry. And we welcome people to take a look at it because it then hopefully would ignite the interest in a career in agriculture and food.
How can university graduates apply their knowledge in business, marketing, computer science to the agri-food industry?
I appreciate you focusing on university. I always have to say college, apprenticeships, certificates, anybody that is willing to learn can apply their skills in an agriculture and food career. And I say that I have several of my own family that are going through the education system right now, of nieces and nephews, and some are interested in education, some are interested in computer science or graphic design, not necessarily something that you would immediately connect to agriculture and food. So I would encourage a student to take a summer job or an internship to be able to explore what interests them, and perhaps they then can apply their skills that they're learning in that education path to the job. A university degree, or at university, it's 4 years. So you have 3 or 4 opportunities to try new things. So I'd also say that they need to go, whether it's working in the finance arena, whether it is helping farmers at an organization that kind of advises, you maybe could get a job there to help coordinate events, because a lot of farmer organizations go out to events and help and talk to the public. So that would be another kind of way to take their education and apply it to testing the waters to see what the people are like in agriculture and food.
What are some initiatives and strategies that the food industry is using to attract skilled workers?
I think that one of the things that we saw within our own organization during the pandemic, people really were struggling with how to find people because people weren't out and about. We started working with the Canadian government to send them NOC codes, or evaluating how they classify careers in agriculture and food, so that they were more in line with what the industry needed. So, for example, a soil scientist or an agronomist wasn't necessarily listed as a career in agriculture, but the fact is we need many, many, many agronomists across Canada to work in our industry and produce the food that we do on a daily basis. So I think that was one really important thing that we started, because it sets out the framework. Then there's other groups that are doing initiatives like Careers Now, and working with a group called Food Grads to be able to attract people into the food industry. So that would be another thing. They're doing mentorship sessions, learning sessions. What does it mean to be a quality assurance person? Because I think a lot of it comes back to that education of kids don't really know what they want to do, but they know they want a job, they know they want to work, but they don't know what direction or path. So I would say that Food Grads does a great job of their podcasts, their mentorship sessions. AgCareers.com has these events that are virtual events. They're called Feed Your Future. That's an initiative. And it's like the old-fashioned speed dating, that you can come to the event, check out the different jobs and the companies that are offering careers. Because the fact is, we attend a lot of things in person, and we're able to do that now, which I think that that's really valuable. But we have a big country, and we want to engage people in all corners of this country. So the Feed Your Future initiative and the virtual career fairs has allowed more access to the career opportunities in agriculture and food. And I think that between a career guide that we send out every year, we have companies that are trying to promote their brand, try to promote their culture, trying to promote the fact that, hey, we have a spot for you. You belong in agriculture and food. AgCareers.com does that and sends it across Canada to every college and university to be able to help with connecting to the careers in agriculture and food.
How can the agri-food industry make careers in that industry more appealing to more Canadians?
I really think that sharing information about what is available in the industry, what it's really like to work in agriculture, how you can apply your interest in biology in agriculture, how you can apply your interest in software or automation or your IT interests directly into agriculture, making those connections and building awareness for all Canadians, I think will help.
What's important for the next generation of Canadian workers to know about working in the agri-food industry?
I think it's important for the next generation to really have a clear understanding and an accurate understanding of what food production is like in this country, and the opportunities to work within the industry, and how they can take many their interests in and really find a career in agriculture in almost any interest that you have. I think it's also very important for the next generation to know that agriculture is part of the climate solution, and that being part of the industry and working in the industry, you will be part of an industry that is working towards climate solutions.
Is industry itself changing?
Absolutely. Industry is changing because it has to change. It's one of those things that I believe you have to focus on the point you want to get to, not where you've been. And I think from myself, just in the over 20 years that I've kind of worked in the talent solutions arena, I see more diversity, more inclusion, more talking about mental health, talking about culture, talking about the importance of retention, talking about providing a workplace, whether it be on our turkey farm or in a corporate office or in a processing plant. People want to be treated well. They want to know that they're cared about, and they want to know that they have a spot, not just now, but somewhere that they can grow and develop. And I would say that I have seen companies and farmers in Canada really put a focus on that, which is how, in my opinion, it's changing for the better.
A long-term solution to the labor shortage will take time.
Sure.
What, in your opinion, needs to happen?
I think it starts in the classroom. One of my other hats is chairing an organization called AgScape. And AgScape is providing curriculum-linked information for agriculture and food in the classroom. A great example of that is a virtual farm tour or an in-person farm tour. You can make that connection with individuals to at least open the door to opportunities that are out there in agriculture and food. We had a group come to our farm, and the questions that kids have are amazing. And we showed them the soil, the manure, the shavings, the feed, the feathers, the turkey, the final product of here is a turkey burger. And they're inquisitive, they want to know, and if you can connect them to the career opportunities that are available with each of the steps, I truly believe we have an industry that can offer a place that is not only satisfying in your career, but just allows people to be happy. And And yes, like any job, there's downsides, but I think there's enough upsides in agriculture and food in the career if we can band together as an organization and talk more about the career opportunities in agriculture and food. I think people will want to work in our industry, and it really just starts at the education system and providing the opportunity for them to know about it.
Agriculture affects everyone, every day. It'll take creative solutions and a united effort to attract and keep labor in our agri-food industry so it can continue to feed us and strengthen our economy. We all have a role to play to seeking out credible sources of information. We can then make better sense of what we hear and read about our food system and the challenges it faces. Just some food for thought.